I've been in crypto and Web3 space for about 7 years now. Everybody in the space likes to make money, and that's, a big reason why a lot of people are in this space. Everybody would just rush in, start trading, get a lot of coins, get a lot of tokens. And then when another platform would launch, everybody would just inevitably jump. The user acquisition from scratch for a new marketplace is just pretty tough, growing without additional incentives. And I know that's not an easy thing to do in this space. Yes, community is everything. And I think you that's probably universal. With everything, you really need to understand the target audience. The question is there, probably why would you need an NFT? Because it can be done other ways. So that's something that still needs to be answered.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Interact Gems podcast, the growth, engagement, marketing and strategy podcast, where we host the best of the marketing minds in the Web3 space to talk about their growth stories with all of us and share some wisdom. This is your host Apur, and today we have a very special guest. It's Masha, who has been part of the Rarible team previously, and right now she's on a sabbatical. That's quite interesting. But yeah, anyways, I would just jump into it. This will be like a 2-section podcast. The first podcast section will just be rapid fires, like whatever just comes to your mind at first to speak, some controversy to talk about basically. And then we get into deep dives, some growth nuggets that, at least can help some of the marketers in our community to learn from our experience, right? But before that, please go ahead, Masha, explain, what you do, what your role is, anything and everything about yourself.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure. And I've been in crypto and Web3 space for about 7 years now. I joined pretty accidentally, as many people do, but I think the main highlight of my career so far has been Rarible. I've been head of marketing at Rarible for 3.5 years. I was actually the first marketing hire there 4 years ago now, and helped to just launch the token and get the product off the ground. So it has really been an amazing roller coaster, amazing story, amazing success story. So most of my time in this space I spent with NFTs as NFT platform marketing and comm specialist, and I left Rarible at the end of last year and has been consulting ever since.
Awesome. I remember, I think when we last spoke, you were working at Rarible. So yeah, long time since we spoke like this. Yeah.
Yes.
We can, just now jump into the podcast questions, right?
Let's do
starting
it.
with something that's probably the most controversial one. Your favorite NFT collection, what will that be?
I would say...
Care to elaborate? Why do you say so?
I think that's probably a personal bias because I have an Emperor, but I think to my mind, this is the closest in vibe there is to CryptoPunks in a way, because it's a collection that kind of just emerged spontaneously and sporadically by an anonymous founder who then disappeared and then reemerged. And I just feel it's a nice, it's very much in the spirit of the space, and mine is just really, really cute. So that's the main reason.
In fact, got a based Emphors actually. The main Emphors I couldn't really get a whitelist for, but based Emphors is what I have. So yeah, interesting. Yeah. The next one, right? BAYC versus Pudgy Penguin. What will you pick?
Pudgy Penguins.
And why is that?
I think for Bored Apes, I'm not really the fan of the art per se. It's just Pudgy Penguins. I like the cute stuff. That's just my jam. So I think Pudgy Penguins are just way cuter. So also, that's second question, same reason. They're more cute. But I think also just I haven't been a part of the community at Bored Apes. I have kind of watched from aside. But I also really like and appreciate how Luca has taken Pudgy Penguins to be more of the mass market and kind of more of the sustainable growth route. So that's why I picked them.
Yeah, I love that Instagram page, right? In fact, so many of my family actually have started following that page. Yeah, awesome. And the next one, and this was again a competition between two giants in the space, OpenSea versus Blood. Which platform do you like better in terms of a marketplace? I'm not talking about Rarible because obviously that's a favorite. But what, beyond that?
I was going to say Rarible. It's a third option. But it's a hard one. I would say OpenSea. Probably because, just like the whole mechanics of incentivization that Blur thrived on. I also don't think that it's super sustainable. And OpenSea has, like it started super early as probably the first NFT marketplace, and also kind of has been growing without additional incentives. And I know that's not an easy thing to do in this space, so that's why my vote goes to OpenSea.
They didn't expect that one, but great to see some OpenSea supporters.
Well, just Rarible. Like the answer to the question is Rarible,
like
but
top. I know. I always put my guest on this border where I don't let them speak their company's name in the category.
Yeah.
So you're not new. Yeah. Okay.
Former company's name. So.
Yeah, former company. Yeah. This one's again something that I've been personally interested to learn more about. Your favorite NFT artist? What will that be? Who will that be?
There are a lot, but I would say that recently I've really enjoyed the works of Kikilo. I'm not sure if you know her, but I actually first discovered her not as an NFT artist, but as an author of a really cool design shop. She does amazing designs for like tees and sweatshirts, and I have a ton. And recently she turned into NFT space and has been dropping a lot of stuff in Zora. I'll drop you the link later. And she has like this 3D and a little bit of anime, a lot of like humor based stuff. So I've really enjoyed her recently.
Interesting. Those were all the Web3 questions. One last question in this section, and that's about touching grass. So what's like your favorite way to chill?
Just, being out in the nature, going, for walks in the forest, which I luckily have here behind me at my family's place. I'm really into yoga, and of course, like, just Nintendo, anime, that's for less active stuff.
Makes sense. Yeah, I'm a big anime fan myself. Awesome. Those were all the rapid fires, right? Jumping into some serious deep dive questions. There'll be 3 of them. So again, not taking a lot of time, but feel free to expand as much as you want in this section. And yeah, be honest, be very blunt about whatever we kind of, asking. Some practical advice. Mm-hmm. So the first question, right? And this is something that at least came from our community when we said that, speaking to someone from Rarible, ex-Rarible. So the question is, NFT marketplace, they have been there for a while, right? I think OpenSea was the first. Then you have Rarible, then you have LooksRare, then also like Blur. And like I think recently there's also Magic Eden doing some great work interestingly there. So the last 4 or 5 years, because you have been so closely looking at the space, how has the evolution been and what have been some of your learnings about the space in general?
I think generally with NFT marketplaces, I think one thing to say is that NFT is like, we feel, for those of us in the space, we feel like NFTs have been there for a long time, and, kind of 4 or 5 years in the space is maybe 10, 15, 20 in regular terms, as everybody likes to say. But actually NFTs are a super, super new thing. And I think everybody in the space is really, really quick to like judge and make conclusions, and products kind of emerge and fall off and disappear. So like it happens too fast for it to kind of, like develop and find its own way. But I think what we saw in 2020 when Rarible just like launched the token and was the first company to drop a token. So it was the first yield farming in the NFT space, if you will. So I think first, it came from, there was only 1 or 2 players, started with OpenSea, just a platform for simple trading. Then incentivization was introduced in the form of the tokens. And I think that's where, with the boom really started, because, not only you can trade things and, get incentivized for that, but it's also extremely fun. It's really, really fun. And I think from there, it just started to attract so much attention, and new players started to come in, LooksRare, Blur, many different platforms trying to invent a new way to incentivize communities, something that would be more fun, more engaging. But what I think is what we've seen is in this route, we kind of got lost a little bit in the trading part of it. because, everybody in the space likes to make money, and that's, a big reason why a lot of people are in this space. But I think it got so, we got so down to the, trading and incentivization mechanics that we kind of lost the way a little bit. And so that's why, platform would launch, everybody would just rush in, start trading, get a lot of points, get a lot of tokens. And then when another platform would launch, everybody would just inevitably jump on to a new platform that offers a new wave of incentives, because you can't really just, offer token incentives forever. Typically, it's just, as a campaign basis. And I think, that's what we've really seen. And now, obviously, it kind of started, to transform. Some players, hesitate just dropping tokens right away for multiple reasons. But I think now, since we went to super high up, and then, all the inefficiencies kind of made themselves clear, and now we're in this kind of went back, and then we're in a really slow market. And I think now is the time when, we'll really see new mechanics of, NFT marketplaces and other platforms, and how it will transform. And I personally see 2 or maybe 3 main routes. First is more kind of everything super generalized marketplace. So a lot of chains, a lot of collections. So something, think like Amazon for NFTs essentially. Then the second route is something really, really niche, super specific to a particular use case. So let's say, art is a huge one, obviously. So something really tailored for the experience of creators and collectors. And then the third route, which is really interesting, and that's actually something that Rarible has been doing for a couple of years now, is more, marketplace as a service. So it's, fully customized kind of end-to-end solutions for bigger brands, bigger corporations who just really want their custom storefronts. And I think probably the last one is really this, very intriguing link to the mass consumer, because after all, the main task that there is, in front of the NFT space and NFT space as a whole is how to really, get kind of regular people to start using it. So those are my thoughts.
Sounds interesting. Got it. Any upcoming marketplaces that you think one should, keep an eye on? Or are you just expecting the existing ones to keep innovating in the space?
Yeah, I haven't really seen kind of new up and coming marketplaces. I think what I expect is that we will see more, kind of embedded functionality, within wallets. And we already can see that a lot of wallets started to introduce, the bids that you have, you can accept the bid right from your wallet and stuff like that. So I think new projects will probably go this way, because the user acquisition from scratch for a new marketplace is just pretty tough, unless you offer a ton of incentives or you do just something incredible that nobody has ever done or ever thought of. But I think now in the slower market, I think players have been finding their ways to differentiate, and probably the game will just kind of go from there, from something that's from the ground that we already have.
Makes sense. I think you're right. I've seen at least a couple of wallets who have started integrating the NFT marketplace functionality within them itself. Just the ease of use and distribution. Yeah. Fair. I think that's definitely a very interesting perspective that at least explicitly I didn't think so much about. Moving on to the next one. This question is something that I wanted to ask you because, again, I'm not a very big art collector, so I don't associate NFTs to that. Again, trader also, I'm a very bad trader. I always make the bad calls, selling at the wrong time, buying at the right time, those kind of things. So not the best one out there. So I haven't had a very good success in terms of making money from NFTs well, right? And hence, the thing that still, at least if I think about it more technically, or at least from an engineering point of view, makes sense, is NFTs and their unique properties of representing someone's unique asset in the blockchain, right? And hence, a
Mm-hmm.
question that at least I keep thinking about is, what do you think are utilities that an NFT collection can sort of, start creating? And would be actually
Mm-hmm.
interesting to see if you can talk about some examples in the space as to how different NFT collections are
Mm-hmm.
taking different utility routes. And what do you imagine is the future of this utility that these NFT collections can provide beyond just, it being an art that obviously you love and admire,
Yeah.
and also just trading, right?
That's a really good question, and I think that also comes to, like the problems that, there are in the space. One thing that I'll mention, I think that goes partly to the first question, but I kind of wanted to talk about this, is that like what we saw with NFT collections. So if we're not looking at NFT marketplaces, but going to the NFT collections, what we started to see is that the model, of a standard NFT collection, 5,000, 10,000 NFTs, however much, is that it's not sustainable for the founders and the owners. Because if you think about it economically, is, you decide to drop a collection, you do one sale, probably, it goes into the treasury, you can make a lot of money, so and like kickstart the community. But then what happens is that you commit to providing value for the community infinitely. So you do the sale once. There are royalties, which have been also a big question mark in the space. Some marketplaces respect them, some don't. And I think, everybody kind of agrees that creators should receive royalties because that's, what makes sense. But it hasn't really been so in most of the cases, in many of the cases. So I think generally that's, like the dilemma, the founder dilemma. If I want to do an NFT collection and I can't really rely on secondary sales, then I need to like come up with a way how to offer this additional value for the holders so that, everybody is happy, the community is thriving, there's also always something going on. And probably, we'll go from this, like go away from this traditional, notion of an NFT collection to some new ways of providing value and utility that are not exactly there yet. So I'm, kind of answering now to your exact question is, I really believe in the kind of, the community. So like that's a community token. It's not something that, you would actively trade, but something that you hold because, that kind of signifies your membership. So I think, Bored Apes, Doodles, a lot of different World of Women have the element of this. So, if you hold an NFT, you can, attend an event, you can, receive some of the perks of being a community member. I think we're super early with this still, but that's definitely a route that I see. Then another one is more, along the side of redeemables. So redeeming physical items. And I think the question there is like, how do you just maintain the value of the NFT once the item is redeemed? So it's more like, faster kind of, create and then burn it. But there's definitely, some fun mechanics, some fun interaction to it. A lot of bigger brands in the space actually do it. So some of the marketplaces that were created by Rarible for, let's say, Barbie or McFarlane. So some of the items include like redeemable physical toys or redeemable collector cards. And I think this really goes into more of the like this kind of just like really collecting in the true sense items that people want to collect and that just go in pair with the virtual one. What other utilities? I think it could definitely be a subscription mechanic. Like we're seeing some also early examples of it on Forecaster. I probably wouldn't name one from the top of my head, but when owning something gives you access to receiving a certain um, like material, education, like an access token, but for something virtual. The question is there, like, probably why would you need an NFT? Because it can be done other ways. So that's something that still needs to
Yeah.
be answered.
What do you think about
And
Pudgy and Azuki, right? Like, where are they going? What do you think about their utility? Will they fall in some of the categories you mentioned already, or are they totally different categories, right? Azuki with their anime chain and Pudgy with their, entire IP, essentially, right?
yeah, yeah, I think IP is definitely a super interesting thing. So, like, one, I think I can't really like speak as a full expert, about Azuki and Pudgy, but like what they're doing in terms of IP. So they're creating like multiple different assets. So let's say about Pudgy is, there is an Instagram page and animations, there are toys, probably, there will be some cartoons and everything. And the collection here, as I see it, acts more as like, like the OG thing. So as the brand, as different lines of the brand become more and more interesting, exciting for people, then like one, it just acts as the limited edition of something that you can also access. So, and thus it can be expected that it might grow in value. So, it's similar to, if the movie of, like Spider-Man does super, super well, then the toys and like the comics and stuff also sell well, and especially like, limited editions. So I think with Budgie, it's probably this case, I would say. And with Azuki, I can't say for sure, but with it being an IP, so I think one route that them or maybe another collection can take is that if the proceeds from licensing the IP go to the owners of NFTs, that can be like a community and club plus some sort of like a revenue distribution mechanism. So that is also a very interesting one, but that would have to be more of the like, the full scale kind of DAO set up, and like, I'm not sure about the legal framework for this, but that is an interesting one as well.
Yeah, makes sense. Personally, more excited about Azuki than anything else, simply because they're leaning to the anime side of things, and I just love that. Yeah,
agree.
The final question, and this is, I think, the biggest, I'll say, expertise that you have in the space, and would love your thoughts on it. So, how do you think growth and Web3 marketing differ in the NFT space as compared to the other sectors of Web3, right? What are the nuances that, starting founders and marketers might just miss on? I know community is everything, right? But what does that really mean, say, for an NFT collection, right? Or an NFT space, for example? Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's I think for NFTs there, as we already kind of mentioned, there are two sections. So there are platforms, so there are, infrastructure products in the NFT space, and then there are NFT collections. And I would say that NFT collections marketing is not my forte because I've mostly been on the product side of things. And when it comes to the main differences, like from kind of Web3, talking, DeFi, and everything along those lines, this is typically more, infrastructure that's very, heavily like either developer focused, or it is more, kind of trading, day trading focused. So just very, it's a different audience. And when we're talking about NFTs, the large component of it, of course, is flipping, but especially now we see that, people are not flipping super actively in the space. So that's more of the like consumer side of things. I think, the closest you get to like real people, real, like consumers, so to say, is in NFTs. So I think that, yes, community is everything. And I think you really, that's probably universal with everything. You really need to understand the target audience. Who are you marketing to? Like, I think there's a very thin line between, just like getting the culture and the tone right. And it feels like with NFTs, because there's so much like culture driven, space, that's very, very important that you get the tone right, you get the language right, that, you're kind of in the style, but you're not cringe, but you still appeal to the wider audiences. So I think that's one of the biggest things. I think probably whole Web3 is really visual, but when it comes to NFTs, like NFT platforms, products, like right now, if you want to kind of, do a product that people will pay attention to, it really needs to have amazing design, really cool, top-notch UX, because, like in DeFi, I think people are just less, picky. So if it works, it works. If the incentives are good, I'm going to use it. But like in NFTs, I think the bar is so high for the experiences and for the design. So, and I think it's easy to overlook, for example, like for a marketer, I'm just like gonna quickly put something together in Figma myself. That likely won't fly. So like you really, really need to have an amazing designer on hand, just because the overall standard for the visual for something that people use is really high. What else? I think it's really, really product specific after that.
Makes sense. No, I think, but that's definitely something that kind of at least strikes a chord with us as well. So we have a few NFT projects that we've been working with, and when we speak to them, they're very, very picky about the design, the graphics, the kind of memes
Mm-hmm.
also that you post, those kind of things, right? And it makes sense because they try to also play not just on the financial aspect of it, but also the identity, the culture aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
And having a story kind of play out through your socials is definitely a very important part. Yeah, those were mostly my questions. So once again, Masha, thanks a lot for joining in. I'll actually now leave the floor to you to talk about where people can find you, and if you would like to also share anything else to like just wrap up this conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for having me. It was fun. Yeah, everybody can find me on Twitter. It's Masha_VY. And also on LinkedIn. I'm super open for all the conversations now. Yeah, I'm taking a small break from work, but I'm still here, still active,
Yeah,
still chatting with people.
yeah, awesome. Thanks a lot, Masha. Thanks a lot to everyone who joined in as well. It was a great talk. Hope you learned a lot about NFT marketplaces, marketing growth, and what's the NFT space holds. And we have Masha to thank for that. So super excited to see that. If you loved us, follow us, join, subscribe. As Masha mentioned, we'll also talk about the Twitter handle. Just follow her there on LinkedIn, right? And let's keep the conversation going.